Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Owner's Box After Dark. I am your host, Mark Farinella, the former assistant sports editor, Patriots beat writer, and sports columnist for a newspaper in southeastern Massachusetts. And I have been podcasting now for almost a full year, but we will get to the celebration of any kind of a anniversary later on. Taking about more of the month. It is October 1st, 2020, here in the palatial confines of Fulton Pond Studios in Mansfield, Massachusetts. It is still daylight, so it's not really after dark. But you won't be seeing this until after dark. So, it still fits, and I just had the urge to get this done now instead of waiting till later and then staying up all night to do the editing work. We are, as I said, the 19th episode, and we are also in the 31st week of the COVID-19 pandemic, which I will touch upon later on in this episode. It hardly seems fair or right that we have been dealing with this for so long, especially now. There have been a couple of outbreaks, but again, I'll deal with that shortly. First and foremost, though, I think we'll get to the topics that I laid out in order of how I want to talk to them. And I think, let's see, the first will be, of course, the New England Patriots, the team I used to cover for 41 plus years. Good win last week over the Las Vegas Raiders, and I think I'm going to be saying Oakland Raiders. You know, I may not do that this time around because, let's face it, the Raiders have been back and forth to places. Back in the 80s, when I went to see them for the first time in person, they were the Los Angeles Raiders, and they played in the Coliseum. In fact, that was a great playoff game. You may remember it as one that sent the Patriots to the AFC Championship game in Miami the next week. You may also remember it was the game in which defensive tackle Matt Millen clubbed Patrick Sullivan, the general manager of the Patriots, with his helmet as they were all walking off the field. And that was an interesting circumstance. A lot of people don't know. They get upset because, oh, how dare he do that? A helmet against a defenseless man. A lot of people don't realize that Patrick was on the sideline for the whole game, and he was ragging on Howie Long. Howie Long, of course, was a product of New England, a Boston native, but who played his high school ball in Milford, and then certainly became a star in the league. But for some reason, Patrick was just ragging him like what you do on a baseball bench to an opposing pitcher. You're just trying to unnerve him the whole game. That wasn't a good idea to do it to the Raiders. Whether they weren't in Oakland at the time or whatever, they were still the Raiders, and they were the bad guys of the league. So Patrick got clipped off the side of the head with the helmet as he was walking back in this huge crowd of people all going up this one runway to where the locker room entrances were. So, just again, part of the overall joy of that season, in which the Patriots went to their first Super Bowl 20, which was not exactly the most memorable Super Bowl to ever go down the road, at least for the Patriots. I mean, they absolutely were smoked by the Chicago Bears, but as you know, they've been to quite a few since, and they have 6 victories. And there are a lot of people now who are getting all sorts of excited about what might happen this year, but let's hold off. The main thing is, in the wake of the 36-20 victory by the Patriots over the Raiders last week, in which the Patriots scored 23 second-half points and really looked a lot better in the second half than it did in the first, they are 2-1. And they're pretty much on the same path that I thought they would be. In fact, they are exactly on the same path towards an 8-8 record. This is not going to be a cakewalk of a season for the Patriots, and I think a lot of people should recognize that. The best thing about this game, though, is I think it was because the Patriots were able to win, and win convincingly, on a day in which Superman played more like Clark Kent at quarterback. It was not Cam Newton's best day as a Patriot or as a football player, but it was a manageable day, and also a day in which other people stepped up and performed well. And I think that is the main thing to be paying attention to when you see the Patriots going forward. If they can continue to do this, then I'll feel a lot better about them than I would if it was just Cam Newton putting everything on his shoulders and saying, "I'll lead you boys to the promised land." Newton himself, 17 for 28 passing, 162 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a 73.8 passer rating, which was his lowest of the 3 games so far. He also had 9 carries for 27 yards, and you're going to expect some action there. But the big thing in this game was definitely the performance of the running game. 250 yards rushing total. What a game! You didn't see those kind of totals really for the Patriots since that 1985 team that went to a Super Bowl. That was a very, very powerful rushing football team, and it's nice to see this. The much maligned Sony Michel came up with 9 carries for 117 yards, and although they're saying as he prepares for this week's game at Kansas City that he has a bit of a tweak. But we'll see what happens because some people have come off the injured reserve list, and we'll see if maybe that might change things a little bit. Rex Burkhead had a very good game, and remember I've said that I have some doubts about Rex Burkhead sometimes because everybody gets so excited about him, but it's until he gets hurt the next time. I mean, that's been my whole premise this whole time. Well, this was a game where he showed his versatility. 6 carries for 49 yards and 2 touchdowns. He caught 7 of the 10 passes thrown at him for 49 yards and scored a touchdown on that. So, and he was the leading receiver for the Patriots on this particular game. So, outstanding performance, and it came when it was needed. And as you can see from the video that I'm about to put up here, it was an interesting day for me because I was trying to multitask one more time, trying to keep the Red Sox in my thoughts as the season drew to a close for them. I mean, they finished pretty much on a higher note. They beat the Atlanta Braves in this final game, and that I'm watching as you see on the screen. But I think that the whole idea was that there's still going to be an awful lot of changes in that team going forward. But I wanted to just keep my eyes on both. So, I mean, every now and then I would have the Patriots on the iPad and the Red Sox on the big TV and then switch it around and so forth. But the only way that I get to see sports these days, and I think back to when I used to cover these games on the road and of course all the home games all those years. But it's a little bit more comfortable to do it this way. So, the other thing about the Patriots game that I liked was seeing the big fumble recovery in the end zone by Dietrich Wise. He's having a really good season, and that's good to see so far. I think it was also important to note that this was all done on short rest. The Patriots caught the Raiders coming from a Monday night game and coming all the way to the East Coast, and for a 1 o'clock game on a Sunday afternoon, which was not easy. I'm thinking that did wear on the Raiders towards the end of the game, and that's why the Patriots did look stronger. So, as I said, they are still on course for the 8-8 that I put forth here in my preseason selections of all the games. There have not been there's been nothing catastrophic to change the roster yet. They survived the loss of David Andrews at center with a broken thumb. He's had surgery. He probably won't be out for the whole season. They put him on injured reserve, but they can reactivate a number of players this year. So hopefully he'll be able to come back and do that. Joe Thuney did an excellent job at center, and you could see that maybe they ran a little bit more with Cam Newton under center as opposed to shotgun, just because it's been a short time for Joe to prepare to do the shotgun snap, but I think so far so good. It worked. And I also think that there's just a lot of things that are really coming to bear here that the Patriots are going to be perhaps better than we thought they were. But again, we're still just 3 games into the season, so let's see what happens going forward. And this week, they get tested significantly. They are going, of course, to Kansas City, to Arrowhead Stadium. There will be some fans in the stands for that game, not a lot, but the Chiefs are playing extremely well right now. And I think the main thing is that if you can take a look at the whole overall impressiveness of this team, whether it's the receivers, whether it's Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. I thought it was funny that after the most recent game that was on television, his mother, Patrick Mahomes' mother, tweeted saying that they really wished that the announcers would stop calling him Pat, because that's not the way they referred to him at home at all. So another factor that has come to bear lately for the Chiefs is that our own Anthony Sherman, North Attleboro's former outstanding football player, also baseball player, really great talent there, went to UConn and has been with the Chiefs for several years now after initially being drafted by the Arizona Cardinals. He's been asserting himself somewhat. I believe he has 2 touchdowns on the season. I think they might both be on receptions. Last week he had a quick flip, kind of a shuttle pass situation where I don't think anybody saw it coming. It was in a goal line situation, but Mahomes was back, and then everybody was going to the right, and Sherman was kind of hovering in the middle, and the quick pass to him, and he just walked right into the end zone. So they like to use the fullback as a weapon, as the Patriots do, and wasn't originally like that when Andy Reid took over, but I think Andy has seen that his Cape Cod Tough fullback, and that's one I'll never live down. Quick explanation. Years ago, I did we do the conference calls with the opposing coach, usually on Wednesday of the week prior to a game. And so, of course, I felt compelled to ask the question about the local kid on the roster. Now, granted, Anthony Sherman is not a secret to anybody. It's not like I was picking the 53rd player and having to waste valuable conference call time on a person that's not going to ever get in the game. So I just mentioned it. I said, obviously, Coach, Anthony Sherman is a product of our area around here, and people in North Attleboro are quite proud of him. Can you talk about how you have found a way to get him more involved into the offense lately? Of course, Anthony, is the special teams captain as well. And, of course, he, right off the bat, he tries to be all gregarious and says, yeah, that Anthony Sherman, I'll tell you, he's Cape Cod tough. I think, and for a guy who claims to know Massachusetts and the New England states pretty well, I think Andy Reid just doesn't understand that North Attleboro is nowhere near Cape Cod. It's, I think, about 53 miles from the bridge, if on the highways at least. So, so I've never lived that one down. But on my other podcasts, my audio podcast, The Owner's Box, I have created a commercial specifically for Andy Reid, in which I have produced a product called Andy Reid's Cape Cod Tough Chips. So, and I ask you to listen to those if you can. In fact, my most recent episode, I think it was episode 27, which can be found on all the popular podcasting platforms, does have Andy Reid's Cape Cod Chips commercial on it. So you might want to take a listen to it. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, on Google Play, on iHeartRadio.com, a lot of others. All right, so the pick for this week's game, I'm not confident. I say Kansas City 38, New England 17. I actually thought of making it a little bit closer from the performances lately, but I think this is going to be one where the Patriots are going to be challenged a little bit more. I think that the secondary has not performed up to expectations, particularly Stephon Gilmore, and I think that could be a problem. So we'll see. And then the Patriots will go into their bye week 1 week later. They will come home to play the Denver Broncos, who are struggling. So I think the Patriots are on track to that 3-2 rather that I said they would enter the bye week into, and then we'll see what happens afterwards, because it gets really tough afterwards. Okay, let's take a quick break here for a word from one of our many sponsors, and then we will get into some meteor matters after the break. And welcome back to the Owner's Box After Dark. I am Mark Farinella again, your host with the most. And I have to remind you, folks, my mood candle this week is, again, the Yankee Candle Macintosh. I would like to show it to you, but the last time I went to grab it, I started burning half of the hair on my arm. And I don't think you really want to see me go up in flames while one of these things is underway. So we will continue on. The second topic, of course, and my drink of the day is Diet Dr. Pepper in a Starbucks mug, because the ice was still good, so why waste good ice? Very refreshing, as always. All right. Well, let's get into something a little bit more, just infuriating, let's put it that way. I watched the debate between President Trump and Joe Biden, and I watched all of it. I watched every friggin' minute of it. Now, you may ask me why, because I've seen comments from people that say, I stopped watching it. It was an embarrassment. I couldn't stand it. They were talking over each other like a couple of children, so on and so forth. Well, yes, they did. They certainly did. It was absolutely not what I would expect of the President of the United States, and to a lesser extent, the person that I expect to be the President of the United States for at least the next 4 years. But I watched it because I feel that it is my civic duty to be as informed as I can. And that includes watching something that I might not want to watch in its entirety. Yeah, I was infuriated. And the thing I was wishing for the most, which is perhaps being talked about now before the next debate, is that moderator Chris Wallace of Fox News would have had the ability to hit a mute button and shut off the microphone of President Trump when he continually attacked and interrupted Joe Biden to the point of not even letting him get off an answer. Well, Biden, I would have to say the attacking tactic by Trump was effective in some ways. It made Joe Biden look older, and he is old. But the point was that I don't think there's anybody on God's green earth that could have put up with that kind of badgering and handled it in as much of a dignified manner as Biden did. He did slip up a couple of times. He did respond emotionally. I can't say I blame him. I certainly think I would have told Trump to shut up long before Biden did. And yes, Biden did call him a clown. I will say that truth is his defense there. Trump knows he's losing this election, or has a very, very good chance of losing the election. So he is taking the scorched earth path, which means he's going to try to disrupt, to do everything he can to discredit the Democratic ticket, especially Biden, because he can't win on his facts. He can't win on his performance. He can't win on the fact that he claims he's had the greatest response possible to the pandemic, where we now have close to 210,000 American deaths. He can't win on his alleged creation of new jobs, because of all the jobs that were lost during the pandemic, those that have come back have still not reached the point where they were before. And you have to remember that the entire economic recovery from the days of the Bush administration started during the Obama-Biden administration. So anything that Trump could have gleaned that was positive out of that is gone at this point. And he, of course, lies like a rug, as they say. It certainly infuriates me that there are still so many people that want to swallow that garbage, and most of it is based in, I would say, racism or some sort of xenophobia, some sort of misogyny. Of course, let's face it, Trump has his view of women, and it's not exact. And as much as he might claim that that there's a creepiness to Joe Biden, I don't think it matches a $145,000 payment out to a porn star to try to buy her silence and other issues of the sort. And the most damning comment of the night by the president was when he was asked to disavow and disapprove of white supremacy in any form, and he wouldn't. Exactly. He says, well, I'm always ready to say things, and he's going back and forth, and finally they say, well, you name them, who? And, of course, Biden used the Proud Boys, which has been established to be a hate group. And, of course, Trump's famous comment was for them to stand back and stand by. That should have sent chills up and down the spine of any American of good conscience. That was a call to a white supremacist hate group to be prepared to step up in Trump's defense if indeed he loses the election. And you know, from all that has been said and from all that has been written and analyzed, that is going to take a huge, or as Trump would say, huge landslide by Biden to prevent him from challenging the election. And even then, I don't think it's going to prevent it. I think he's going to try to invalidate the election any way he can, to the point where I honestly fear, and I really do, and this is not meant to sound like alarmism, but if you just look at everything that's going on, and then to have that comment by Trump about the Proud Boys and to have them stand by, quote unquote, I think there's going to be armed conflict around November 3rd. This is going to be a frightening time in the history of the United States of America. And I only hope that the result is so overwhelming and that Trump is repudiated in total at the polls, including the rest of the Republican Party, which, again, I've said this to anybody who will listen. I have voted for Republicans in the past. I have friends who are Republicans, but this is not the Republican Party. I mean, right now, the Trump Republican Party makes Barry Goldwater look like a liberal by comparison. This is not the party of Abraham Lincoln. This is not the this is not a Republican Party of Eisenhower even. This is a frightening time. And as I've said any number of times, I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. I'm going to vote for Markey as a senator. I'll vote for, I don't know the guy that well, but I will vote for I don't even know how to say his name, Jake Auchincloss. I can't even say it. I'll work on that, folks. But I'll vote for him because he's a Democrat, and I'm not going to vote for Julie Hall of Attleboro because I know more about her, and I would rather not have another Trump Republican in office. I feel that this nation has to get back to a certain point of governance by civility that has gone completely to hell in the last 4 years. And it is time for a correction. And the correction has to be done at the ballot box. It can't be done at the point of military rifles. All right, the last phase on this. One thing that bothers me a lot is the number of deniers there are still about masks in this country, wearing masks to help prevent the coronavirus. I see it every day. Even if you just go on to the web page of the local newspaper when there's an article about a coronavirus outbreak, and they've just had one in Attleboro. I think 11 firefighters have just come down with it, so Attleboro has now been bumped up into the red level of danger, of risk in the state, along with a few other towns. The number of coronavirus cases are rising in Massachusetts again, which is frightening. And all you have to see is the number of comments about how masks are a means of controlling us, and we shouldn't be controlled. It's all a lie. It's fake news. It's just a cold. People aren't dying of coronavirus. They die of other things. It's just old people anyway. Let them die. Well, for all those morons, I say, take off your masks, take deep breaths, and have a nice afterlife. In the meantime, I will be wearing a mask. So will my friends. And so will just about anybody with half a brain in this state. If I walk into the Stop and Shop here in town, I wear a mask. And I'm not pulling it down over so that my nose is open either. It's like up to here and it's down to here. And I actually walk in the direction of the aisles too. And let me tell you, I'm having trouble with my knee. It's not fun to go to an aisle to see the thing I need is right there, and then to know that I have to walk around and come back up the aisle. I don't like that. It hurts. But I still do it because that's the way we're trying to do things today, to kind of minimize the risk. I'll make the sacrifice, goddammit. I don't see why so many people won't make it. Well, look at the results right now. Look, I want to see high school sports this winter. I want to see basketball. I even want to see hockey. I want to see all these things, and yet if we keep having that rate of infection going up again, and especially with flu coming on too, then it's going to be just another dreadful winter where we're all sitting around and thinking about mayhem. It's not false. It's not fake news, folks. It's real. Listen to the people who know what they're talking about. Do not listen to the Trump administration. Do not listen to the people that they've pressured in the CDC to lie about the results or the risks. Err on the side of caution, for God's sakes. It's not so bad to wear a mask. I've even learned how to wear one so it doesn't fog up my glasses. It's not that bad, and it is real. And since I'm feeling like I've gotten too angry here, I'm going to lighten the mood a little bit, and we will take another break for another exciting commercial. Hang on, folks. We'll be back with a smile on our face.
この惑星のああこんなろくでもない惑星のことなどどうでもいい
相当溜まっているようだなジョーンズ。そういう時この惑星の住人は休みというものを取るんだ。ああ
なんだこの魅力的なイメージは。
これがハワイでジョーンズ。
この惑星でたまには私も休みてえ。ボスで休み方改革。
All right, welcome back to the Owner's Box. I hope you noticed that commercial featured a famed American actor Harvard graduate, Tommy Lee Jones. If you can figure out to me, again, what they are trying to sell in these commercials, please wait for the addresses at the end of this podcast and send me a message and let me know if you figured out what the products are or what the whole idea of this. Because, I mean, the guy's standing at the end of a line and then he gets mad and all of a sudden he's surfing with a comely little Japanese girl, and then it's beyond me, but God bless them. At least they're causing a little bit of happiness and entertainment here on these increasingly angry podcasts of mine. Anyway, welcome back to the Owner's Box After Dark. We have a couple more topics to get to, and we'll try to get to these very quick. First of all, good news. Starting on the 8th of October, which is just a week away, I'll be back behind the microphone, and not this one, of North Attleboro Community Television, North TV, as we return to our coverage of King Philip Regional High School sports. Now, the funny part is that I'm going to be doing field hockey, boys soccer, and girls soccer over the next few weeks. The last time I really had an enduring interest in field hockey was in 1979 when I was dating one of the coaches in the newspaper's circulation area. And Diane, if you're out there, I remember you fondly. I did cover a few games of that team just because I was trying to make the coach happy. But I can do some research. First of all, the biggest thing this year, right off the bat, is that field hockey has been altered to be a 7-on-7 sport as opposed to 11-on-11. And the reason is that the folks here in Massachusetts believe that to lessen the risk of coronavirus infection, you take 8 players off the field at any one time. Whether that will really be a deterrent, I don't know. We shall see. Soccer has a number of changes in it too. Now, I'm not terribly up on the rules of soccer, but I will cram. As it is, right now I have 3 field hockey games and 6 soccer games, 3 girls, 3 boys, on the schedule through October. And there won't be any MIAA tournaments going down, but at least this will be an opportunity, since they right now still have a restriction of the number of fans that can come to the games. This will be an opportunity for them to be able to follow their teams at home, at least in Plainville. I know they keep talking about trying to get the games in the other 2 King Philip towns, but we will see if there's been any progress towards that. But in the meantime, definitely on North TV's Plainville channel, and they will usually appear, I think, a couple of days after the event of the game. So, starting with the game, the King Philip field hockey team's game against Mansfield at MacTaz Field on the 8th, 3:45 p.m. start for anybody who hopes to try to get into the game. But I guess they're not even going to let Mansfield people come into the game. That's part of the rules this year. No visiting team fans. So, anyway, you might want to watch, see how badly I stumble at times. You might hear me talking about a lot of things other than what's going on out there because of my limited background in the sport, but I will do my best. I promise. I will study up as best I can, at least have a general idea of what's going on out there. I think the biggest thing is, as I recall about field hockey, and I did actually cover a couple of playoff games, I think about 5 or 6 years ago. The biggest thing is a lot of times a goal happens from a big pileup in front of the net. And that's hard to see from a distance. I mean, I would be covering those games from the sidelines, as I recall. But I'll probably utilize binoculars to help me out a little bit. And, of course, with 8 fewer players, 4 fewer for each team on the field, it might be a little bit easier to see how a play sets up. So we will take the chance, and we will do our best, all hoping to be able to do football. I mean, in the March and April season, which I'm really looking forward to. And, of course, I'm really looking forward to trying to get back into basketball coverage back in the when we get to the season, which is supposed to start in late November this year. And obviously, I'll have some folks on the Owner's Box and on the Owner's Box After Dark to talk about preparation for this unusual season. And, of course, I still hope to be doing the King Philip, Mansfield, and Foxborough games on various cable outlets. But we'll have to find out what a shortened season will allow. And then hopefully we'll get to do some baseball and softball in the spring season as well, the spring season will actually go to July 3rd this year. So that is interesting in itself. But anyway, like I said, back on the air. I'm happy to be getting that opportunity, and I'm glad the kids are out there trying to get some sports in, because I know how terrible it was to lose them starting in March of this year. And finally, the last topic of the day is pickleball. What is pickleball, you say? Well, if some people have their way, it might be the next MIAA sport. Pickleball, for lack of a better explanation, and I know if there's anybody out there who's a zealot, I almost think I encourage you to write me a letter, just because I don't get letters, and I really like to get some letters. But go ahead, lambaste me for this, but pickleball is basically something you might want to see you'd like to see seniors playing, and I'm a senior, remember, 66 years old, at a senior housing facility. I would love to see people doing this. Basically, it's a compilation of badminton, wiffle ball, and tennis. It's the best I can figure it out. I actually have on my iPad here the rules of the game from USA Pickleball, and I'll try to at least go through some of the main things about it. The main question that is asked, of course, is what is pickleball? And they put it as fun, social, and friendly. Oh boy. The rules are simple and the game is easy for beginners to learn, but it can develop into a quick, fast-paced, competitive game for experienced players. Yeah, I mean, let's face it, that National Pickleball League knocked the NBA ratings right out of the. Yeah, right. Truthfully, I had not even heard of pickleball before I saw. I was scouting the MIA rules changes for the future, and they put those on the website of the state association. They will be talking about a lot of possible rules changes for all sports, and we'll decide upon them in May of next year. But one of them was a proposal from some charter school in the western part of the state to add pickleball as an MIA-sanctioned sport. And I'm like, what the hell is pickleball? I've never heard of it. So I went on, I did some research, and basically what it is that you play on an outdoor, or you can do it on an indoor court, I would imagine, but the court is basically set up, it's about the same size as badminton, so you could set it up within a tennis court. You use basically the tennis net, I believe. You don't have a high net like volleyball or badminton does. And basically you got people, you can have 2 people or you can have 4 people, and they're using paddles to hit a soft, rubbery, looks like a wiffle ball thing. And, it goes back and forth. Let's see if I can show you this photograph. See, there is the ball, and there's a guy with the paddle trying to look athletic. I don't know how athletic that really looks. And basically, it's kind of a beach game. I mean, look, this is a game you'd set up on the beach, or like I said, maybe seniors would do it to stay healthy, or maybe it's a preschooler type of thing where everybody can just whack the crap out of the ball and be happy. But I don't see the point of trying to make it into a high school sport we have tennis already. If you play tennis, play tennis. You have volleyball. Volleyball is definitely athletic. This is a game, not a sport. I think that's the best way I can put it. I don't believe, and people will get upset with me, but the point is that this is happy fun hitting the ball. Oh, I'm sure you could make it into, a death match if you wanted to, but why? I mean, this is just another thing to try to get people involved in sports, and maybe thinking about this might get the kids who just would otherwise be looking at their Game Boys and PlayStations and whatever the whole day. I don't know. I'll be the first to admit I was not the most athletic person in the world. I tried. I did letter in baseball for 2 years at Mansfield High School. It may have been charity on the part of the coach, but I worked as hard as my teammates. I just didn't have their skills. But at least I tried, I mean, this is just not a sport. I'm sorry. This is a happy, fun, physical activity that can be a game, a happy game. I need George Carlin at a time like this to explain the differences. But anyway, it's not going to come up until May. I guess it did come up a little bit in some of the meetings that were held this week. And every now and then you see someone, oh, yeah, what a great idea. Let's make pickleball a sport. If I'm an athletic director right now, and I'm worrying about how to get the traditional sports on the fields and in the courts in the midst of a still raging pandemic, 31 weeks and counting, I don't think I'm putting a lot of effort into determining if pickleball would be a great addition to our repertoire of sports. Okay, so that is it for this edition of the Owner's Box After Dark. I hope you've enjoyed some of my rants, and I hope you have at least put up with them if you didn't enjoy them. I have got some plans to return to the audio version shortly. I do know I've got a good one set up for later in the month of October, but I'll hold off on letting you know about that right off the bat. But again, what we'll try to do is we will try to simulcast these, where we will have half of it will appear on the Owner's Box After Dark, and the other half will also be added into the full episode for the Owner's Box Prime. I guess we would call that the audio version of the Owner's Box, which we've done 27 of those. We want to keep going. So we hope to be able to get that squared away shortly. In the meantime, as stated before, if you would like to see links and other exciting stuff, links to all of my podcasts, whether they be audio or video, or commentaries that I make on my website, please go to www.theownersbox2020.com. I can't get these out without a mistake. www.theownersbox2020.com is the website. If you would like to send me an email calling me the worst person in the world for not liking pickleball, or maybe complimenting me, or to say Trump 2020 a million times, go right ahead. The email address is theownersbox2020@gmail.com. Right across your screen. theownersbox2020@gmail.com. And I, of course, will accept snail mail. It's a small box, so you can't send anything that's ticking. So send me letters. Let me know. Keep in touch, please. The Owner's Box address is the Owner's Box, Post Office Box 272, Mansfield, Massachusetts 02048. Okay, so I'm going to ask you all now to please, of course, continue to use your hand sanitizer. I do. I'm very happy. I've actually found more Purell in the stores these days. This isn't a paid endorsement, but I just prefer Purell to any other version that I've seen out there. I actually bought something at the beginning of this flood of the market where all these other kind of brands were showing up. It feels like motor oil on my hands. Purell is, you put it on the hands, it evaporates, it does everything it's supposed to do, and your hands are sparkly clean. So please wear your masks, and please follow the arrows in the supermarket. I don't want to get into fights with anybody, but I'm getting to the point now where I'm starting to mutter things under my breath like, oh, you didn't see the arrow, huh? Can't figure out what that arrow is, huh? And, of course, behind the mask, you can't see my lips moving. I'm going to get in real trouble at some point. But please, let's try to get through this as human beings. We have 1 month left before an election that hopefully will restore some faith and goodness to America. Let's try to get there in one piece. Thanks for listening, folks. Come back soon. I'll have another one up shortly. Good night, everybody.